Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 12. 12 episodes now of the Bench podcast for you. As always, I'm Aaron Valentino. I'm joined alongside Brandon Ladd and the freshly cut Jacob Johnson with the muscles for some reason. We got the late night Bench podcast with people working and it being a little bit of a crazy week. It is 10:52 currently. But guys, how are we feeling?
I'm exhausted right now, but I just got to put that exhaust into a great episode and bring some energy.
I painted for 3 hours today. I painted a whole stairwell. So second coat tomorrow. I am now
whole stairwell, lad.
Yes, I am a man of many talents.
Well, I am going to the beach tomorrow, so I've packed for that. I had to record an episode with Brian of the High Cheese podcast, which will be released tomorrow, Saturday. We're recording this on Saturday. I know they're hearing this though. The listeners are hearing this on a Friday.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's released on Saturday. But a lot happened this week in sports. A lot happened today with Jamal Adams, with Major League Baseball, with everything. We are going to start with Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams has now formally requested a trade from the New York Jets. He is very aggravated, very tired of Joe Douglas not even talking to him during this global pandemic. And a situation that people were speculating for weeks was going to get really ugly. Jake, today it got ugly.
Yeah, I was at work most of the day, but I had a couple opportunities during, times where I wasn't as busy that I could check my phone. And I was seeing, all these things on Twitter. At first, I just got the Bleacher Report notification saying he requested a trade, which, we've all kind of anticipated this coming because he's talked a lot about not wanting to be there. He's not happy with management. He's not happy about, where his contract situation's at. And I saw that he requested a trade. And then, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, I got the other notification listing the teams that he was thinking about, wanting to get traded to. And it's the Ravens, the Cowboys, the Texans, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Niners, and the Seahawks. One team that, really stands out to me there is the Cowboys because last year at this time, that was a team that was really talked about, but the Jets weren't budging on a draft pick. It was going to have to be a first rounder, and the Cowboys weren't willing to budge on that first rounder. So now that he's requested this trade, do you guys think that, the value is going to go down a little bit because they want to get rid of him, or is he still going to get that high first grade pick volume?
All you, Aaron.
Oh, well, I was going to say, I am all prepped on this Jamal Adams situation. I watched the Can't Wait podcast with Connor Hughes of The Athletic before we started today. I read a couple articles from Richard Cimini of ESPN. The thing that's so weird about this situation is that Jamal Adams holds none of the cards of him pushing to try to get an extension or try to get traded, right? The Jets have him under control for at least the next 2 seasons. And then even after those 2 seasons are up, they could go ahead and franchise tag him again. It doesn't matter. If you're thinking, he'll just hold out and won't show up to training camp, that's also not going to happen because he's currently not under the franchise tag. So if he doesn't show up to training camp or OTAs or any of that, the Jets are going to fine the hell out of him, and those fines are going to add up really, really quick. And eventually, if he holds out for long enough, could be more than the $5 million he's going to make this coming season. The reason Joe Douglas has not made Jamal Adams the highest paid safety in the NFL is for one reason, and that, of course, is the reason that we started this podcast is the coronavirus pandemic. Because of the pandemic and because of the uncertainty of cap space, of revenue for the NFL has a chance, if there's no fans the entire season, has a chance to lose $3.2 billion. And that is going to screw up the cap space, not only for the Jets, but for all 32 teams across the NFL. So the cap could take a huge hit next year. And if Joe Douglas pays Jamal Adams the $16, $17 million that he wants, that could – and then all of a sudden the cap takes a major hit. I'm talking like one of the biggest in NFL history. If the cap takes that big of a hit, the Jets are screwed because they're paying only 3 players on their roster in Jamal Adams, C.J. Mosley, and Le'Veon Bell. Jamal has no leverage. He can kick and scream all he wants. to be honest, though, he's not making himself look good by saying, I want my money and I want my money now in a time where nobody can really pay him. It's not just the Jets not going to be able to pay him. Goes to the Cowboys. Jerry Jones isn't going to pay him because Jerry Jones, also doesn't know the cap space. Joe Douglas is also the kind of guy that's not going to back down. If you think Joe Douglas for a second is scared of Jamal Adams requesting a trade to, 7 different teams, I just don't know what to tell you. Joe Douglas is a man that's worked for everything he's ever had in his life. He's a tough as nails kind of dude. Jake, you said it yourself. The Jets didn't budge on any trade negotiations for Jamal Adams at the deadline. Joe Douglas said, I need a first-rounder and 2 second-rounders if you're going to take Jamal Adams to me, and that is it. And the Cowboys, who were the most talked-about team, weren't willing to pay that price for a safety. And while I personally believe Jamal Adams is the best safety in the NFL, he doesn't have the impact, say, as, a wide receiver or a quarterback or a linebacker. But the situation is just so interesting to me because Jamal can kick and scream all he wants, and Brendan, he really doesn't have any leverage.
He doesn't have any leverage, but I can feel the hypocrisy in this situation. For weeks, everybody's been telling me, oh, fuck the owners in baseball. That's all I get text messages all day on Twitter. Oh, fuck the owners. They don't know what they're talking about. It's all about the players, the players, the players. I watch Colin Cowherd. Player mobility, that's all we talk about in the NBA. That's all we talk about. And then suddenly we get to the NFL, and then suddenly the players have no leverage. It doesn't make sense to me because what has Jamal Adams done wrong? He's done everything right. He's a community leader. He's a stud on the field. The analytics support him. Second on Pro Football Focus grades in 2019. Fifth in 2018, fifth in 2019, 87.9 this past season. He wants to go back to Dallas. That's where he played his high school football. Then he goes to Louisiana State. So I just feel the hypocrisy in this argument that the Jets have all the leverage. Last time I checked, the Jets sucked. You don't have any leverage when you suck. Do you see the 7 teams he wants to go to? The Ravens, good. Cowboys, they're back. Texans, good. Chiefs, unbelievable. Eagles, good. 49ers, good. Seahawks, dynasty. I just don't get this argument. He can kick and scream all he wants to. What's wrong with a first-round pick? And Marcus May was a top 15 safety last year. He might be top 10 this upcoming season. Stop being so stubborn and get a first-round pick for this guy so he doesn't sit his ass on the bench all season and make you guys look like a 5-win team circus that you are.
Wow. Jake's face.
Whoa. Okay. Whew. That's going to take a second to,
process. Yeah. Lad is fired up at 11.
I'll get to the points where I agree with him on is that, the Jets are not one of the best teams in the NFL. Neither are the Giants. So it doesn't matter there. It's just Jamal Adams is honestly probably their best player. That's the thing.
He is. No, there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
When your best player is requesting a trade, I don't know if that says something about the franchise. I don't know what that says. It's just if he doesn't want to be there, then something else has to be going on. It must be he doesn't ever think that he's going to win a ring in New York or what the case is, but he wants to play for one of these high-tier teams. Like Lad was saying, all those 7 teams, granted maybe not the Texans or the Eagles, they're all top-notch teams in the NFL right now. Texans and Eagles are that middle of the road, but still playoff contenders. He wants to play for one of those top teams. Now, I was looking at it too when I had a second today at Pro Football Focus because me and Aaron were having our little argument about if Jamal Adams is the best safety in the league. I personally think that Earl Thomas is better than him, and then it's really tight between Harrison Smith and Jamal Adams. But still, he's a top 5, top 3 safety in the NFL right now. That's a top-notch player. That's a leader on your defense, and that's someone that makes plays constantly. He's one of the best defensive players in the league. And if he doesn't want to be on the Jets, I don't know how one of these other 7 teams don't come calling, because he can change the Seahawks defense. He could change the Ravens to a phenomenal defense. He could put the Chiefs automatic right back in the Super Bowl championship back-to-back years. These teams that he's going to, he makes their defense outstanding.
Everything the two of you just said is absolutely 100% correct. But this isn't a Le'Veon Bell situation where he could sit and cause problems and, not make any money. He will lose money if he keeps acting like this. And if he keeps having this attitude like this, what team is going to want him? Also, again, the only way Jamal Adams is getting traded from the Jets is if Joe Douglas gets an offer that he absolutely loves, which is a first-rounder, at least a first-rounder, a player who can come in at start, maybe a receiver, maybe a linebacker, maybe another safety, and probably to swing the deal, another second-round pick. Joe Douglas is not going to move on that, and you can't convince me otherwise because he didn't earlier in the season. Granted, it's a little bit more of a different situation because Adams is acting out like this. But again, Joe Douglas, is the person that decides Jamal Adams' fate. Jamal Adams does not control his own destiny in this situation. Glad you were making some
I feel like he does, though, because the public pressure from the New York media is going to be the most intense thing ever when you get to October and he's still sitting out and you find him $3 million.
But again, the New York media is on Douglas's side because Jamal Adams can't do anything about his situation. Joe Douglas wanted to pay him now, and then the pandemic happened, and now there's a huge question about cap.
Well, he's been wanting to get traded. I don't think it's a money issue. I think he wants to play for a winning team, and he wants to go back to the South.
Well, that is part of it. He's only won, I think, 9 or 10 games in his career. He's frustrated with losing. But that being said, the biggest issue here is that Joe Douglas has not talked to him about a contract negotiation, but Joe Douglas isn't doing that because he doesn't know if he's going to have the money next year. Let's say Joe Douglas gives him whatever he wants. Let's say he gives him the 3-year, $16 million deal. That would make him the highest paid safety in the NFL. All of a sudden, the cap takes a huge hit, one of the biggest in NFL history. Now, all of a sudden, the Jets are stuck in a position where they can't afford to pay Sam Darnold. They can't afford to pay some of the other guys they need to pay on the roster. And they're paying 3 guys, Jamal Adams, C.J. Mosley, and Le'Veon Bell. And Joe Douglas thinks that's way too big of a risk. Granted, if Jerry Jones calls him and says, all right, I'll give you my first-round pick this year, my second-round pick, and another future second, then Joe Douglas is absolutely going to take that deal. The Jets could improve so much. If the Jets did that deal this year, they would have had Mekhi Becton and CeeDee Lamb, which, in retrospect, is way more of an upgrade than Jamal Adams gives them as a safety.
I agree with that. I also, I agree with Lad's point in the fact that he didn't want to be on the team last year and that he was, he requested the trade last year. He really requested it because he wanted to go to the Cowboys. But at the time, the Cowboys weren't really willing to give up, that first and second round pick. They were pretty, content with what they had going on in the secondary. Now the secondary for the Cowboy looks like, Jamal Adams, he gets put on this team. Honestly, I would say that
Cowboys might be the best defense in the NFL, yeah.
I think that would guarantee the Cowboys the NL East. NL East.
National League East title.
I think that would guarantee them that and, maybe a playoff win at that. So he didn't want to be on the team last year, and I agree with, you guys that he is sick of losing. He came from LSU. I think maybe, Lad's the LSU expert, but he only lost 2 or 3 games his, whole collegiate career.
Exactly.
LSU was an incredible team those years. He was on the team with Odell and Jarvis Landry. So it's hard when you go from that to a team that's, really been mightily struggling these last few years. And he's not willing to stick it out. He wants to win now. And he's not one of those players that thinks, let's build the process and maybe be good in, 4 or 5 years. He wants to win now.
Well, I see some hypocrisy quickly in your cap space management because Quincy Enunwa is making $10 million a year against the cap.
Again,
Anderson's
also part.
$10
Yes,
million a year. There's guys. Q Williams now looks like he's going to be one of the worst top 5 draft picks of the modern era.
said
And
1 year.
paying him $10 million a year. Like, we need results if you're going to get paid $10 million.
But again, that's also part of the problem. Quincy Enunwa is making that money, no doubt. Like, that is set in stone, whether the cap takes a hit or not.
Yeah.
Joe Douglas has the freedom to pay Jamal. Now, really, again, hypothetically, he has the authority to pay Jamal whatever he wants. He has to pay Quincy Enunwa that $10 million. That's the uncertainty. That's why he's not getting paid. Joe Douglas has said time and time again, Jamal Adams deserves to be the highest paid safety in the NFL. But he's not doing it because there's too big of a risk. You can't pay 3 guys on an NFL roster. You can't. It's just not how the NFL works. And if Joe Douglas does this and the cap takes as a big of hit as some people are saying it's going to take, then the Jets are screwed. They're more screwed than they've been for the past 50 years. And they've been screwed time in and time out again between, Mark Sanchez and, all their past bad quarterbacks, or Ryan Fitzpatrick losing to the Bills on the last day of the season. The franchise has just been such a horrible place for the past couple of years. Joe Douglas is trying to fix that. And right now, unfortunately, it comes at the cost of Jamal Adams requesting a trade to these 7 teams, at least 7 teams. It's such a weird situation, and it's going to play. He's not getting traded tomorrow. They have all the time in the world. It's going to take a lot more than Jamal Adams requesting a trade for Joe Douglas to just trade him, although I could be wrong about that. But everything I've read and heard says otherwise.
Did I tell you?
What's up?
Go ahead. I have a fun story to end this.
All right. Before we get to Lad's fun story, Lad did put this in here, and I do want to ask it to the both of you because I do think it's an interesting question. If Jamal Adams does get traded to one of these 7 teams or another team, what is the best fit for him?
Lad, do you want to take this one to start?
Yeah, because you know what the answer is. It's the Cowboys. It's the hometown fit. There's a reason why he wants to go there. The Cowboys with Mike McCarthy coming in, they can give up their 30th overall draft pick this year from going to an NFC championship game, and they can instantly improve their secondary. They might even consider giving up Michael Gallup if they feel like CeeDee Lamb's progression is coming along. And I'm sure you would love a 24-year-old 1,000-yard-per-year receiver up in New York. So that seems like a perfect fit. We have too many of them down in Dallas. So it seems like that would be the perfect fit.
I would have to go with the Chiefs. I was going with the Cowboys. Just that's who I thought, but I knew that was going to be Lad's answer. So I would say that a close second to that would be the Chiefs because Jamal Adams, Tyrann Mathieu, that is the best safety core in the NFL. That is the Honey Badger, Jamal Adams. They both play so similar, fly to the ball, both great in coverage. That secondary would be insane. That defense would be unstoppable. Then you have the offense with Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill. That team would be insane, and they would win back-to-back Super Bowls.
Jake, I was going to say the same thing. If the Chiefs get Jamal Adams, that's a dynasty in the making. That is a Patriots dynasty in the making. Patrick Mahomes, who's on pace to be one of the greatest QBs ever, the explosive offense with Andy Reid, and now the defense which has been kind of a problem for the Chiefs. Not necessarily a problem, but something that they've needed to fix over the past few years. Now is Tyrann Mathieu and Jamal Adams in the secondary, which is absolutely incredible. Obviously, the Cowboys, they make a lot of sense. First-round draft pick. They've been connected to him for a year or so now. Michael Gallup would be very interesting considering that they just drafted CeeDee Lamb. The Ravens make a lot of sense too. They have a elite defense that they can only make better. They have a young quarterback in Lamar Jackson that they could build a solid defense around. I think the top 3 teams for me would definitely be the Cowboys, Chiefs, and Ravens for Jamal Adams. But Lad, what is your quick story?
My quick story is back in October in my younger years, some might say my prime. Back in our suite, my door was really tight to my desk, and I also broke the shower rack that held my towel, so that stuck out like a javelin that could kill a person on a Friday night after a drink. So anyways, I got a text message in a group chat that said, "We got him," because Brittany Cairns is a Cowboys fan. So when she said, "We got him," I just assumed that meant that it was an official trade. So here comes me skipping out of my room, and the first thing I do is I run face first into the door that's halfway open. Then my spleen goes right into the javelin like shower rack.
No.
And then I go over the sofa. Luckily, everyone else was at class and didn't see me lay on the floor for the next 10 minutes. So that's the pain I go through to get Jamal Adams to go down to Dallas.
Yeah, that trade deadline day was absolutely insane. But the Jamal Adams situation is going to develop over the next couple months. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about it tomorrow. But it definitely is an interesting storyline heading into the start of the NFL season. Moving on now to Major League Baseball, and once again, it was another wild ride. Ron Bamford, the last time we spoke, said there will 100% be baseball. When we posted it on Friday, on Saturday, he came back and said he is now uncertain that there will be baseball and wasn't 100% sure. Then went on to go on to ESPN's Return to Sports and come after the players for not negotiating in good faith, which is quite the strategy in negotiations when everybody is mad at you and the owners and everyone is on the player side. Earlier this week, he flew to Arizona, met with Tony Clark to try and get a deal done. He thought he had a deal done. MLB PA came back with a proposal. They claimed that any reports of a deal being done are false. Rob Manfred and the owners are furious. Jake, just kind of another disaster of a week. What are you doing?
Oh,
Rob Manfred can go fuck himself.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I cannot stand him. He is just ruining everything that I love. He's taking away this baseball season that had so much hope for every team, and especially as an Atlanta Braves fan, you end the season getting blown up by the Cardinals, and you're like, I can't wait for next year, same young team, and then we have this. He is just, I can't even put words about how ignorant he is and how much of a horrible MLB commissioner he is. And part of me just really, really wants I don't even know. The players, all the players on Twitter tell us when and where. Tell us when and where. Every player took a picture of them playing. Tell us when and where on Twitter. They want to play. I think he hates baseball. I think he hates it.
I think he hates baseball too. And I mean, let's read out the proposal. Somebody raise their hand when you hear a crazy point from the MLB Players Association, the counter they sent out today. 70-game season from July 19th to September 30th. Any issue with that so far? No. Full prorated pay. Any difference when you pay him for 60 games versus 70? No, I don't think so. Spring training starting June 26th through the 28th. That would be the start of it. No. Expanded playoffs to 16 teams in the next 2 seasons? No problem with that. They can opt out if there's a high-risk member of their family that could die from the virus. No. 50-50 split of added 2021 playoff revenue from the 4 extra teams in the billion-dollar contract they're going to sign? No. And universal DHs. I don't see any problem with that. I don't know why the MLB has their freaking hands on their I don't want to say instead of their I don't know. But they need to get the pens out.
I think the biggest thing, obviously, they were mad about the 70 games, which is just absolutely bizarre to me. Like, what the heck is the difference of 10 games? What are you going to pay them? Like $1 million more per team? That one didn't make sense to me. But I think the 50-50 split on the playoff revenue TV deal, that's a lot of money. And again, we've seen with these greedy owners, they don't want to give up any money, let alone any playoff money in a year where they're not going to make a lot of money. So I think that was their biggest gripe with it. But again, none of these things that the Players Association is putting out there this isn't their first offer of 114 games and playing till November. This is very reasonable and very doable. And yet Rob Manfred and company, Jake, just continue to screw it up.
Yeah, it's really just been extremely disappointing. You go, and obviously the beginning of the season was canceled, and now we've had a lot of trouble trying to get something set in stone. And, I feel like you could tell Rob Manfred wanted a season early on, but after these last few weeks, I think he's just lazy and is just slowly giving up on the fact that he doesn't want to keep working and trying to get a proposal done. He has been completely lazy, completely ignorant about the whole situation, and he's basically given up. He's saying, you know what, I'm done. If they don't want to accept these proposals, I'm done trying. And I think that's how it's going to go. As we said 2 weeks ago on our episode when we talked about this, I said that I don't think there's going to be a season. After the comments that he made the other day, I'm now 90-10, no season.
I think a season's going to happen. I think it will be 62 games because it's going to be one of those weird negotiation things. But I read a tweet today that was pretty funny. I don't get on Twitter very often, but my blood pressure's been up recently, so I've been flipping out on Twitter. But I read there's 3 options here. Number 1, you play baseball between the two sides. Number 2, you try to win a negotiation. Or number 3, you make an ass of yourself publicly for the past month. They are really trying to win number 3 recently. So that was the tweet of the day.
Again, it's just another case of, we've said it every week, it's just another case of, they took a long time to come up with agreements to do everything. And the owners and Rob Manfred have kind of, left this thing lingering for a very long time. One more thing I want to do before we go to our quick hitters, as Lad likes to talk about. I do want to talk about the universal DH for a second. Jake, you and I are both National League fans. As a National League fan, what are your thoughts on this? Because Brian and I talked today on the High Cheese podcast that teams that would benefit, I obviously said the Mets because of Robinson Cano and their whole left field situation. But I said Braves and Dodgers were my 1 and 2. So what are your thoughts on the universal DH?
I've always liked the idea of a DH because sometimes when you just send, it's super exciting to go out there and see a pitcher hit a home run. But, the chances of that happening have been very, very slim. As a pitcher, you're really meant to work on, your pitches. And you're not really going to the cage. If you do it, it's once for 5 minutes so you can work on bunting. I do think the Braves would really benefit from this because they do have the same situation where they got kind of a crowded outfield. They have Adam Duvall. They have Austin Riley. They got Camargo. It's kind of a stacked bench that the Braves have. I think that they would benefit from this a lot. And I think that, honestly, I think every NL team would benefit from this because you're putting in another hitter. You're not just putting in someone that really can't hit the ball. You're not putting in another pitcher. You're putting in someone that's meant to hit a baseball. They're on your bench for a reason. They're a member of your 25 players on the team. I think that this, helps every NL team, not just special ones. Every team has those bench guys that they bring in for certain situations.
I'm with you there, Jake. I mean, as the American League fan, I have no issue with the DH. I think it's going to help out teams. Quickly, though, the Dodgers are probably the team, in my opinion, that would be helped out the most. They have the most outfield talent of any team of the past 6,000 generations because it seems like every top prospect is in that outfield. And also, the Mets would be helped out. They have a bunch of veteran players that are slowing down a little bit. I think Robinson Cano could have one of his best seasons ever as a DH in 2021. And I think he could live up to the hype of his contract. So, obviously, the DH helps. I don't see any issue with that. I don't know why that would be the point in the argument that would get people pissed off.
Well, the baseball purists out there aren't about the DH. I know Mark Carrig in particular is a big NL pitchers who rake kind of guy. But all in all, once again, Rob Manfred, my message to you is get this done. It's time. It's June 20th. Spring training was supposed to start 10 days ago. Let's get this deal done. Finally, before we wrap up, Lad, we got a bunch of quick hitters here. Why don't you take it away, starting with Anthony Fauci and his comments on the NFL season?
So Anthony Fauci went on fake news CNN the other day, and it felt like a moment of real news, though, because Fauci was talking to Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who is one of the leaders of the health profession on TV. So Fauci was saying that there's a good chance that the NFL season won't happen. He says, don't be surprised if things go wrong. There's too many positives, and the season has to be shut down. So I felt like that was pretty shocking. And quickly, guys, I don't see any scenario where that would happen. I feel like they would push through the positive cases.
They're going to play. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind they're going to play. They're going to have no fans. They got a couple months to figure this out. They'll have testing things like the NBA is doing. They're going to play. The governors of New York and New Jersey want them to play. They will play.
Yeah, I agree with Aaron. It's also, it's a little while away. NFL preseason games wouldn't be starting until early August, mid-August. So you still have about a month and a half before that even starts. So they're going to get the NFL season in. And I think that by the end of the year, we will see fans in the stadium. It's just, I think that preseason games, we're not going to see it. And probably the early games, if I had to take a guess, maybe up until Thanksgiving, there could be fans there for a Thanksgiving game and after. I think that it's just going to take some time. There's going to be limited fans before that. They're going to probably do military members or, special members of special organizations. They're going to try and find ways to put fans in the stands.
They will definitely find ways to get that going because that's revenue for the NFL. So moving on here to another NFL issue, June 19th is the famous holiday. I did some reading this week on Wikipedia. And Gerald McCoy wants to do a 2.5-mile walk with all the Cowboys players and wants Jerry Jones and everyone to participate. I think it's a great idea. 2.5 miles is significant distance because here, let's see if I can say it. The Emancipation Proclamation was signed into act on March 1st, I believe, 1863 by Abraham Lincoln, officially ending slavery. The last slave found out on June 19th, almost 2.5 years later, 1865 in Galveston, Texas. I think that's one of the most fascinating stories ever. They're pushing to have that be a national holiday. Cuomo said it's going to be a state holiday in New York for state workers. Donald Trump moved his rally back to Saturday, so it wouldn't be on June 19th. Guys, what do you think quickly? Do you think Jerry Jones will participate in this walk?
He should. It would look good for Jerry Jones is kind of a guy that's been like mixed in all these, progressive movements that have been going on the past couple years in the NFL. So he should. That's all I'll say.
I think that he also, I'm going to look at it in the other way is that if he doesn't, there's going to be a lot of players not too happy with him. And I think that he's going to get a lot of backlash about that. And I think he needs to do it. It'll look really good for him. It'll look really good as the Cowboys organization. It'll look like he's united with his team. He's not, he's not that owner that doesn't care what his players do. He's with them and united.
Good point. I think he needs to walk with them. Moving on here quickly, 2 last points. Jake, you can take this one over. I was telling Neil earlier the 1987 story about Bobby Allison and why there's restrictor plates and why the drafting racing is the most fascinating science to me in all of sports. We'll save that story, though. NASCAR is going to Talladega this weekend, though. 5,000 fans allowed in the seats. You have to be within a 120-mile radius. It's going to be one of the best races. Jake, you can take over with that.
I'm always excited for Talladega. One of my favorite tracks on the, NASCAR schedule. Unfortunately, I have to work 11:30 at 10, so I'm obviously not going to get to watch it. Might have, depending on who's working at the bar, I might have them turn the race on for me so I can watch a little bit of it. Talladega, one of those races where you never know who's going to win. Someone could come out of nowhere and win the race. Going to be a lot of big wrecks. Definitely excited, and even more excited that they're allowing fans. Alabama, wants to put fans in the stadium. They did it last week at Homestead. They put military members in the stands, and the NASCAR drivers knew that. They knew that there was fans there, and it made them put on a better race.
Aaron, will you be watching?
No.
Okay, that's fine.
That's a little
For puss, whatever. Last
good,
point.
good race, Aaron.
It will be a good race. Last point here.
I just don't know anything about it.
Well, you got to jump on the bandwagon.
You got to dive into it.
What?
You got to dive into it. I agree. No, that's what you're saying.
Okay, so moving on to my last point here. Most people don't talk about a golf course in Hilton Head, South Carolina, but I will. Harbor Town Golf Links, home of the whatever the hell it's called, the Heritage this weekend. It's the golf tournament. Anyways, I want to talk about clashing styles here. One of these science points I want to make. Bryson DeChambeau, one of the most exciting golfers in the game nowadays. He took the quarantine to bulk up. The thing I wanted to do, he is now my size, 6'3", 235 pounds. The thing with him, though, he is all muscle. The thing with me, it's all in my butt. So a little different body type. So DeChambeau.
I'm going to cut the clip of you saying it's all in my butt and just put it on Twitter again.
I'm glad. So anyways, DeChambeau can hit the ball 200 miles per hour off the tee now. I can hit it about 90 miles per hour off the tee. Anyways, it's a small golf course. It seems like the small hitters are going to hit it. Jake, anything on that? Did you understand anything I just said?
No idea. You know, as Aaron doesn't watch NASCAR, I don't watch golf. Not too thrilled of it. Love playing golf. Definitely not a big fan of watching golf. So glad that's your forte, I guess.
Aaron, take us out.
With that being said, thank you for listening to episode 12 of the Bench Podcast, presented to you by Anchor. We are on Apple and Spotify podcasts now. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for watching. Wash your hands. We're almost out of this, and have a great rest of your quarantine week, everyone.